There are moments in life when the weight becomes unbearable, when everything you've worked for collapses in an instant, when the people you trusted turn away, when the vision you held so close dissolves before your eyes. These are not just difficult times, they are defining times. They are the moments when life doesn't just challenge you, it breaks you, and yet, within these very moments lies the seed of something extraordinary. Not because pain is noble or suffering is heroic, but because of what we discover when everything else is stripped away. When life breaks you, it doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait until you're ready. It storms in uninvited and unannounced, demanding that you rise, that you rebuild, that you become someone stronger than you were before. This is not a story of ease, it is a story of courage. It is a story about the invisible power that lies dormant in every human heart, the power to choose meaning over despair, purpose over pain, and growth over comfort. There's something that happens to us when we're shattered. Our assumptions die, our illusions crumble, the masks we wear, the games we play, they no longer matter. What we're left with is the raw truth of who we are. It's not always a pretty sight, but it's real. And in that reality, something powerful begins to emerge. A little clarity, a little strength, a little vision that wasn't there before. That's the beginning of transformation. Simon Sinek often speaks about purpose, about the why that drives us. But what happens when life seems to steal that purpose away? What happens when the why no longer feels big enough to carry the weight of your pain? That's when you go deeper. That's when you learn that your why was never just about achievement or success. It was about resilience, it was about connection, it was about becoming. When life breaks you, the temptation is to retreat, to hide, to protect yourself from more pain. But what if the very act of standing back up, even if it's just to your knees, is the beginning of a new chapter? What if healing isn't about forgetting what happened, but about integrating it into a larger story? A story in which your scars are proof not of your weakness, but of your strength. Every broken moment has the potential to become a breakthrough. But it doesn't happen automatically. It happens when you decide to face the pain, not deny it, not numb it, but look it in the eye and say, you will not have the final word. That's what it means to lead from within. To lead yourself first, especially when you don't feel like leading at all. I want to speak to that part of you that's still fighting, the part that's tired but hasn't given up, the part that aches but still dreams, the part that knows there's something more, even if you can't see it right now, because you are not alone, and you are not done. You see, the interesting thing about being broken is that it removes the illusion of invincibility. It strips us of our pride, our pretense, and forces us to confront the question we spend most of our lives avoiding. Who are we really when everything falls apart? We spend so much of our lives trying to build up an image, a reputation, a structure around us. But when the storm comes, and it always does, it tears through that facade like paper, and in that silence, in the aftermath, we meet ourselves. Maybe for the first time, there is immense power in small decisions. Not the dramatic, sweeping declarations, but the quiet, consistent choices made in the dark, when no one is watching, when it hurts, when there's no applause and no recognition. That is where character is built. Not in moments of celebration, but in moments of crisis. That is when you discover what you're really made of, and more importantly, what you're capable of becoming. When everything breaks, our instinct is to look backward, to try and reclaim what was lost. But growth doesn't come from returning to what was. Growth comes from asking, what now? It comes from understanding that the purpose of pain is not punishment, it's instruction. It's an invitation to pay attention, to grow into someone wiser, stronger, deeper. Life is not asking you to be perfect, it's asking you to be honest, to show up fully with your brokenness and your hope in the same hand, to take one step, then another. That's how you begin again. Sometimes we need to let go of the story we thought our life was supposed to be, so we can step into the one we were actually meant to live. That shift doesn't happen in a moment. It happens in little adjustments, in small realizations, in the quiet, painful awakening that maybe, just maybe, what you lost wasn't your life falling apart, but your false foundation finally giving way to something real. And make no mistake, real is messy, Real is uncomfortable, real is uncertain, but real is where the breakthroughs live. Real is where connection happens. Real is where we remember that we're not here to impress people. We're here to impact them, and you can't impact anyone if you're hiding behind a mask of perfection. The world doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to be present, to be authentic, to be real. Because when you show up with your truth, you give others permission to do the same. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need to have it all figured out to make a difference. You don't need to be completely healed to help someone else. You just need to be willing to share, willing to listen, willing to keep going even when it hurts. That willingness, that little spark of courage, that's what turns brokenness into purpose. That's what transforms a painful season into a powerful legacy. When life breaks you, it feels final, but it's not. It's a beginning in disguise. And if you're still breathing, you still have a role to play. You still have something to give. The world is full of people who are walking around with silent wounds, pretending they're fine, and your story, your truth, might be the very thing that helps them find their voice. That's the power of authenticity. That's the power of resilience. Let the pain teach you, let it refine you, but never let it define you. You are more than your worst moment. You are more than your broken season. You are more than the story you told yourself when you were too hurt to hope, because deep inside you, beneath the disappointment and the failure and the fear, is a little ember that refuses to die. It's your purpose. It's your calling, it's your reason, and it's still there. That's what Simon Sinek means when he talks about finding your why. It's not about chasing success. It's about anchoring yourself in something that's bigger than your circumstances. Something that can't be shaken by failure or fear. Your why isn't about what you do. It's about who you are and who you're becoming through the struggle. And one day you'll look back, not with bitterness, not with regret, but with quiet pride. You'll see that the moments that broke you were also the moments that built you. You'll recognize the wisdom in the silence, the strength in the stillness, the courage in the continuation. You'll understand that the real gift was never in avoiding the pain, but in surviving it, learning from it, rising because of it. Because when life breaks you, it's not the end of your story, it's the middle. It's the messy, complicated, breathtakingly honest middle that makes the ending worth reaching. You will speak to others differently. You will carry a gentleness in your words, a kindness in your tone, a knowing in your eyes. Not because you've never been hurt, but because you've learned how to heal. Because you've walked through fire and found your way out, and now you are a light for others still walking in the dark. That is the quiet power of someone who has been broken and decided to rise anyway. Not loudly, not to prove a point, but simply because they could, simply because they must. So don't wait for life to be perfect before you begin again. Don't wait until the wounds are gone to move forward. Begin now. Begin where you are with what you have and who you are today. Begin small. Begin with little steps, because little is enough when it's consistent. Little is enough when it's honest. Little is enough when it's yours. You don't need to be whole to be worthy. You don't need to be unshaken to be strong. What you need is to believe in this moment that the story isn't over yet, that there is more ahead of you than behind you, that the cracks in your armor let the light in, and that your comeback will be stronger, not in spite of the break, but because of it. So here you are, still standing, still breathing, still trying. That, my friend, is not weakness. That is resilience, that is leadership, that is life, and even when life breaks you, especially when it breaks you, you still have the power to rise.